FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
Now, those of you who read the Washington Post know that the surveillance of us has gotten to the point where if you get on a plane, they know what you're reading on that flight. They know who's sitting next to you. They know where you're going when you get off the flight, and they've got the phone number of the person you're going to go visit. Surveillance is so intense, and it's a very effective tactic. I mean, again, Mussolini developed it, Hitler reproduced it, Stalin, had all kinds of surveillance going on. Secret police are a core of every closing society. And let me just tell you about my own story. I started getting really interested in this when every time I got on a plane, I would get taken aside for an extra search. I got a quadruple S high security mark on my boarding pass every time I got on a plane. Short Jewish girl from New York. What terrorist profile do I fit? This army of short Jewish girls, wreaking havoc and, globally with our credit cards. I mean, what is this? But they would take me aside, and finally I, kept trying to ask them, why me? And some nice TSA agent said, "You're on the list." And I'm like, "The list? I'm on the list? What list is this?" And she was sort of hustled away by her supervisor. So I researched it, and sure enough, there is a list. And the people who are also on the list are people like Richard Murphy, emeritus of Princeton, foremost constitutional scholar, who had just given a speech critical of Bush's assault on the Constitution. They ransacked his luggage and told him he'd be lucky if he got his luggage when he got on the other end of his flight. Two nice little old ladies in San Francisco, peace activists who run a newsletter called War Times, critical of the war. They're on the list. ACLU staffers are on the list. Senior members of Greenpeace are on the list. I just heard that someone from Code Pink, the anti-war group, was turned back trying to get into Canada because she is on the list. John Lewis, Democrat, on the list. Ted Kennedy, a thorn in the side of the Bush administration, on the list. And on and on and on. So this is just annoying in a strong democracy. It's kind of like, remember the 80s, like, oh, I've got a file. In a strong democracy, it's kind of like, ooh, the government is watching me. They must be, I must be making a difference. But in a weakening democracy, it starts getting really scary because every day, if I look a little hollow-eyed, it's because I'm scared to open my email. Because now that this book is out, every day I get emails from people saying, I'm a senior military guy, and I was critical of the Iraq War, and yesterday they took me and my 15-year-old son off the plane, and they harassed us, and they intimidated us, and my whole family is now on the list. Or, I'm Jessica Rakoff. I was a senior person at the Justice Department. I said to my colleagues, don't torture John Walker Lind when you interrogate him, and make sure he has a lawyer present. And they cleared out my emails. They directed a criminal investigation against me, and now I'm on the list. And the list is getting more and more intimidating. Most of us don't know there are interrogation cells in US airports now. And this young woman who teaches at Mills College was interrogated, not allowed to go home to Oakland, to her students, to her home. And she was told that if she moved, they would consider it assault on her interrogator. And I'm getting reports of people all over the country saying when they're standing in security lines, TSA agents come out and say, freeze! And everyone has to stand in place frozen for up to half an hour. And again, I want to say freezing in place is a National Socialist tactic. They did that with prisoners. So there's clearly this ratcheting up of intimidation and scrutiny. When I went to copy edit this book, I went to Vermont on a plane. My computer was in my suitcase. When I unzipped my suitcase in my hotel room, on my computer was a letter from the Department of Homeland Security. They'd been in my suitcase. So again, a classic fascist tactic, or a tactic of a closing to society, is to make border crossing difficult and fraught with fear and intimidation. And again, surveillance. Only 10% of citizens in East Germany in the 50s had Stasi files, but everyone thought he or she had a Stasi file, and that belief was enough to intimidate East German citizens.